Sometimes the bravest voice comes from the smallest person. Let's talk about an emperor who learned this the hard way. Once upon a time, in a grand and prosperous kingdom, lived an emperor who was completely obsessed with fashion. His every waking moment, his every thought, and nearly all the kingdom's money was spent on one thing: new clothes. He had a different outfit for every hour of the day, and his royal closets were overflowing with silks, velvets, and jewels. He cared more about his appearance than about ruling his kingdom, and the people knew it. One day, two strangers arrived in the capital city. They weren't just any travelers. They claimed to be the most extraordinary tailors in the world. They went to the palace and made the emperor an offer he couldn't refuse. They promised to weave him a suit of clothes so magnificent, so special, that it had a magical property. This fabric, they said, was completely invisible to anyone who was foolish, incompetent, or unworthy of their position. Only the truly wise and worthy could see its stunning beauty. The emperor was thrilled. What a brilliant way to find out who in his kingdom was fit for their job and who was just a fool. He immediately paid the tricksters a huge sum of gold and gave them the finest silk and golden threads to begin their work. The two swindlers set up their looms, but instead of weaving, they just pretended to work. Secretly stashing away all the expensive materials for themselves, they would snip the air with their scissors and sew with empty needles, describing the beautiful patterns and colors to anyone who came to check on their progress. Soon, the emperor grew curious and sent his most trusted old minister to see the fabric. The minister, a wise and respected man, walked into the workshop and saw nothing. The looms were completely empty. He panicked. Could it be that he was a fool, unfit for his job? He couldn't let anyone know that. So, when the tricksters asked him what he thought of the magnificent cloth, he praised its vibrant colors and intricate design. He went back to the emperor and gave a glowing report of the most beautiful fabric he had ever seen. One by one, other officials, guards, and servants were sent to inspect the work. Each one saw nothing, and each one, terrified of being labeled a fool, pretended to see the spectacular clothes. Fear spread like wildfire through the palace. Everyone praised the invisible fabric, each person more elaborate in their description than the last, just to prove how wise and worthy they were. The whole court was buzzing with talk of the emperor's incredible new suit. Finally, the day came for the emperor to try on his new outfit. The two tricksters approached him, pretending to hold up the clothes. "Here are the trousers, your majesty," they said. "And here is the magnificent robe and the long, flowing train." The emperor stared, but all he saw was his own reflection. He felt a cold knot of dread in his stomach. He saw nothing. Absolutely nothing. Was he a fool? Was he unfit to be emperor? He couldn't possibly admit that. He had to maintain his dignity. So, with a confident smile, he declared, "They are magnificent, truly, the finest clothes I have ever owned." He pretended to put them on, piece by invisible piece, while his courtiers all applauded, saying how wonderfully the colors suited him and how perfectly the style fit his regal figure. Swallowing his fear, the emperor decided he would wear his new clothes for the grand parade scheduled for that afternoon. The streets were packed. The entire kingdom had gathered to see the emperor's legendary new outfit. As he began his procession under a grand canopy, the crowd buzzed with nervous whispers. Nobody could see any clothes, but nobody wanted to be the one to admit it. They had all heard the story of the magical fabric and who wanted their neighbors to think they were a simpleton. So they all played along. "Oh, what splendid colors!" one person shouted. "Look at that incredible design!" Another chimed in. The lie grew bigger and bigger, echoing through the whole city. The emperor marched on, feeling more and more ridiculous, but holding his head high. He was trapped in a lie of his own making, and so was everyone else. But then, from the middle of the crowd, a small, clear voice cut through the noise. It was a little child, perched on his father's shoulders, who pointed a tiny finger and shouted with all his might, "But he isn't wearing anything!" A sudden, shocking silence fell over the crowd. The child's words hung in the air. For a moment, no one moved. Then, a person next to the child whispered, "Listen to the little one. He's not wearing anything." The whisper spread to another, and another, until it turned into a wave of murmurs. And finally, the whole crowd roared with laughter in agreement. "He has nothing on! The emperor has no clothes!" The emperor heard it all. He blushed with shame, his face turning bright red. He knew they were right. He knew he had been tricked, and that his pride had made him look like the biggest fool of all. But what could he do? The parade had to continue. And so, he straightened his back, held his head even higher, and continued to march down the street, more exposed and embarrassed than ever before, while his chamberlains hurried behind, pretending to hold a train that wasn't there. The story of the emperor's new clothes teaches us a powerful lesson. Courageous honesty can break even the strongest illusion. It reminds us to trust our own judgment and to have the courage to speak the truth, even when everyone else is afraid to. Because sometimes, all it takes is one honest voice to reveal what everyone else is thinking but is too scared to say. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe for more tailies that make you think. See you next time!